Ben McKee, West Rucker, Go Vols 24/7 here in Stegeman Coliseum following Tennessee's 85-79 win over Georgia in what was quite the game. You said it walking the postgame. It felt like 3 basketball games within one, and that is because Tennessee built a 15-point lead, was cruising going into halftime, gave up a 9-0 run to Georgia going into the locker room. Georgia comes out, hits back-to-back three-pointers, snowballed from there. Georgia leads by 11 at one point, and then Dalton Knecht, who was great the entire game, but really started to do Dalton Knecht things there at the end of the game.
Yeah, it seemed like, Tennessee's offense so often is a complex thing with moving parts and screens and cuts. And by the end, it was give 3 the ball and get out of the way. And it worked. I mean, there are times where you do that. I mean, we talk about how complex this game can be or sports can be. Sometimes they're pretty simple too, right? Give the ball to your best guy, have him make a play. And Dalton Knecht with some nice plays from Ziegler, some nice rebounds from Adu along the way. But still just, man, what a player he is, especially on the road.
Yeah, and, it looked dicey at times. Yep. But ultimately, by the time the buzzer sounded, have to give credit for the way Tennessee responded. Mm-hmm. I did think at times it looked like they were folding. Georgia was barking, no pun intended, a couple of different times, and Tennessee would go into a timeout and they'd come out and turn the ball over and then leave a three-point shooter wide open. They were doing some things that didn't necessarily show that they were responding well. But ultimately, again, when it was all said and done, credit to Tennessee. It was a nice environment inside of here today, and they responded, of course, with Dalton leading the way, but the defense got so much better those last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, the defense really put the clamps on Georgia. I mean, Georgia hit 14 three-pointers in this building in this game today, and then in the final 4 or 5 minutes did hardly nothing. I mean, that was, you talk about clamps. They started pressing higher, and then late in the game, they backed off just a little bit to make those guards for Georgia make decisions, and all of a sudden, Tennessee had been in the headlights with deer in the headlights for a while. Georgia down the stretch just kind of fell apart because just crumbled with what Tennessee was doing against it, and then Knecht Georgia barked at him, got him fired up, and this 31.3 points per game, I believe, or whatever it is on the road for him as an average. It's just incredible.
Yeah, Deloach, the Georgia player, apparently told Dalton that this is not Colorado basketball, but I think
which
Deloach,
is geographically accurate.
Yes, he is correct, but I also think he found out who Dalton Knecht is this afternoon. And also want to give a shout out to Jonas Adu. Yep. He was terrific down the stretch. Not a perfect basketball game, but a nice response from what was a Wednesday night at Mississippi State.
Yeah, Tennessee got big boy bullied in the paint by Tulo Smith in Mississippi State, and they got that 290-pound guy, wherever he is, also that did some damage. To have that happen, and then in this to come back just a couple days later on the road, and then sort of get the best of them around the paint. I thought that was really, really important. And in the first half, that was one of the things that really stood out to me, was that Adu's length was becoming a big, big problem for Georgia. And it allows Tennessee to be aggressive on defense because he can swat things on the other end, even if people get blown by. So just, again, the ceiling for him is so high, and he's just going to keep getting better and better if he stays confident. He is a really, really high upside basketball player.
Yeah, and then my last thought on the way out the door, because tonight you can pretty much summarize today's game by saying Dalton Knecht, and that takes care of the analysis, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. But my lasting thought, leaving tonight, leaving the week, is that this is a different SEC basketball. And Rick has talked about it for a couple of weeks now, how every game, day in, day out, night in, night out, it's a dogfight. Another, no pun intended. But this is what it's going to be like all season long. The days of cruising against Georgia and Mississippi State, it's over. Every team in this league is going to be a tough out. So definitely some frustrating moments at times this week. But 1-1 on the road, I think you take the good with the bad and just hope that Tennessee can continue to improve from this point on.
Yeah, it is a solid basketball league. Like, I don't know, you could say there's a few Final Four type contenders, but there's a ton of Sweet 16 contenders in this league, a ton of really good basketball teams. We'll see if any of them are great, but a lot of really, really good teams. And you go to the hump, you come here. Tennessee's going to be tough to beat in Knoxville. That's just that crowd, that environment, the comfort there, especially if Knecht starts playing better at home. My goodness, what they could do to people there. But you go on the road in this league especially, every single test is going to be a tough one.
Yep.
To go 1-1 this week, not the end of the world. Probably should have been a 2-0 week, but when you lose the first one and then you're down 11 with less than 6 left in the second one, you take 1-1.
Absolutely. It looked like it was going to be 0-2, but 2 really good basketball teams that I think is going to flirt with the NCAA tournament this season. Speaking of home. We're going to go back home, and Tennessee's going to be back home on Tuesday night against Florida. A big rivalry game against another really solid, really feisty basketball team, probably better than the two teams.
With a coach who looks younger than you.
But. That is true, which is not saying much with my haircut. And then that team from Tuscaloosa, they come to town on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. And they're, talk about a team that hits 14 threes in a game. I mean, Bama can do that in 8 minutes. They're going to take 100 of them. Let's just see how many they make. If they make them, you're in trouble. Absolutely.
Plenty of coverage of Tennessee's dramatic win over Georgia up at the site on GoVols247.com. He's Wes Rucker. I'm Ben McKee.